Hey, my name is Samar. I also go by Sam or first time panner. Any of those you want to call me, you can. I feel like the video quality looks a little hazy again. I'm not sure why that happens. I mean, I never clean off, I never wipe my camera on my phone before I start filming, but I feel like some days it looks hazy. Nothing I can do about it. I don't know how to edit videos, but this will be an update for my Pan Those palettes. This year I'm doing a Pan That Face palette, which is a BYOP. It's like my Franken palette. And I also have a seasonal Pan That palette for eyeshadow palettes. Even though technically I've been like letting myself use the palettes as I wish throughout the year, I'm trying to cycle through them or like focus on them seasonally. So this will be the update where I like switch my seasonal focus. But I mean, it's not really that much of a switch because the only two that I have like progress on that I can talk about today are the two that I'm switching. So it's just whatever. It is what it is. But maybe I'll start with the eyeshadow palette since that's, I guess, the more exciting part of the video. The palette that I've been focusing on for the past 3 months and the one that I'm wearing today is the e.l.f. Rose Gold Nude palette. So here's what it's looking like now. I don't really know. I don't know if you'll be able to really see many changes, especially because the two shades that I've been working on are matte shades. Well, one matte and one matte with glitter, which the glitter doesn't even really show up anyway. But the two that I've gotten the most use on this past month have been this like medium toned purple and then this deep purple matte with glitter in it. So I have like the biggest dips on the top, or for you, the bottom of the pan in each of these. But with this one, because it's like such a smooth formula, you can't really see a dip. And also the shade is so hard pressed and so finely milled that like it's not making that much of a dent, considering I've used that eyeshadow like 20 times in the past month at least. So that's a tad bit, you know, disappointing. It's not exciting, I will say, especially for having focused on this or like having this as my like main focus palette for the past 3 months. It looks used, but it doesn't look like someone's panned that palette, you know? But I've never really been good at hitting pans anyway. But I also I got some pretty good use on this shade because almost every day I was using it as an inner corner highlight. But because that shade can be quite, I'll swatch it for you. This shade can go pretty icy on me, so I don't have to use that much of it. So whenever I would use it, I would just like barely tap into it. But yeah, this palette is exclusively what I'm wearing on my eyes today. I'm wearing, of course, those two mattes that I just talked about, and then I have this purple shimmer all over my lid, and like a tiny bit on my lower lash line. Sorry, my pinky always cracks. And then this one on the inner corner, which is like, as I first said when I first introduced this palette at the beginning of the year, that's like my go-to look with this palette, especially when I'm only using this palette for an exclusive look. The Smoky Soiree has been my level 3 palette for Project Level Up. This blue shade, every time I used it for the 10 times that I had to use it, I used it with this palette, and the only difference was instead of using that pink shimmer on my lid, I would just use that blue shimmer. So this got 10 uses that way. I also had a blue and purple trio in my, I think it was my That's So 2000s project that I had to use for 3 different looks, like with each shade on its own, and all 3 of those looks I used this palette with it. And then I think other than today's look, there was also one day where I did this exact look, so I guess my use is like closer to 15 than 20, but I feel like I still got quite a bit of use on this palette, and I'm very happy with maybe not the visual progress, but my actual like uses on this and how much I really got to know this palette. I'm just very happy with it. But as I said, I'm transitioning to a different focus palette. Winter is gone, so I don't need these like deep purples and icy pinks anymore. I'll still probably use this palette because, again, every time I want to do a cool toned purple or blue look, this is a great go-to palette for like kind of the basics, and if I want to put like a special shade, or if I like just need something to pair with something that I'm panning, this is always a really great palette just to have on the side. And I will still keep it in my everyday makeup organizer anyway. And as I said earlier, throughout the year I'm gonna let myself use all 4 of my Pan That Palette palettes. It's just I feel like I keep explaining things that I don't need to explain, but like my focus will be on my focus palette, which for spring will be my Natasha Denona Mini Star palette. I'm trying to be very careful with this because the shades keep shattering and crumbling and breaking, especially this middle pink metallic here. But I did get a fair amount of views. I think I used this shade here about 10 times. Now I can hear Roxy trying to get in my room. I used it 10 times again with my Project Level Up palette when I was using the brown matte. I would kind of use this just as a base shade so that it kind of muted down the deep brown. So I got 10 uses out of this palette that way. And then I had my Urban Decay Space Cowboy quad in a different project. And that's just kind of like 4 different topper shades. So I paired these 2 shades, the 2 mattes in this palette, with that palette every time I used it. So I got an additional 4 uses out of it that way. So yeah, 14, maybe 15 uses. So I guess I kind of use those 2 palettes equally. I don't know how much of a dip you're gonna see in this one either, because again, it is very firmly pressed, but I do kind of have a little bit of a dip going on in that shade, which I'm pretty pleased with, because this is a palette that I threw in this project because I'm kind of like over this palette. You know, I don't support Natasha Denona, so I won't be buying anything from her brand anymore. And this is just also not my favorite palette, both because of quality and color story. So any use that I get on this palette, I'm perfectly happy with, because I know I'll just be decluttering this at the end of the year anyway. So moving forward for the next 3 months, this will be my focus palette. I do feel like most of the uses will be on the mattes probably, because they're kind of just go-to super easy shades that I can use to pair with like literally everything, even though this lighter matte does lean slightly peachy. I feel like it's neutral enough for me to just kind of pair with anything. And then I'll try to get some use on this pink shade as well, because I feel like it's perfectly fine as a lid shade. And then this one as well, I feel like I'd have to pair this with a much deeper matte for it to pop and stand out. I do really like that shade though, so I'll probably get some use out of this one as well. Maybe if I'm doing like dinner somewhere, but that's kind of my plan with this palette. I'm probably not going to be using that blue brown shade. It's a trash shade. And I didn't bring anything to wet my fingers off with because I didn't think I'd be doing swatches, so I'm just gonna use my makeup headband. I need to be quick now because I have a pizza in the oven. But moving on to my face palette, not much to say because there isn't much of a change visually in this as well, because again, everything in here is very firmly pressed. Mostly my bad because I hand pressed most of these. And speaking of, the biggest change that you will see in this palette is with my bronzer shade. So last update I mentioned that it was extremely crumbly because this was a dry repress. It was like a Franken between 2 or 3 different bronzers or something. I honestly can't even remember what was in there, but it was crumbling so much, and I was like, I just need to repress it before it completely shatters. I didn't even get the chance because right after filming I knocked it off of my bed, and not only did this shatter and get on everything, like I had to wipe down each individual pan, take everything out, wipe out the entire palette itself, but also the highlighter shattered. Luckily I was able to kind of like just press everything back in. I didn't have to like completely repress it with alcohol, but I did end up having to completely repress this with alcohol this time. I did lose a little bit of the product because, you know, it shattered and crumbled and everything got everywhere, but I feel like at least 75% of the product is still in there, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon because I'm really bad at getting through bronzers. But I would say I do like this The color didn't change or anything, but I prefer this format a little bit better because it is so much harder pressed. I don't have to be as careful with it, whereas like when it was just dry pressed, I would get so much product on my brush and I just had to be very careful when applying it. So I'm really enjoying how it is now. It's similar to the Franken contour shade that I made, where I can just kind of slap it on and run out the door, which is what usually happens every day. Other than that, not really much change. I've kind of just been using these whenever I don't have time to get ready before work. So I didn't use them today because I'm doing the closing shift for these next few weeks, so I have extra time to get ready in the morning. But yeah, I'm enjoying this palette. I'm very glad that I'm panning it this year because I feel like it just has literally everything that I need, except for maybe it doesn't have super poppy blushes, but I find myself not even really using super bold, like very orange or very red blushes these days because I'm like almost always doing my makeup for work or trying to do more subtle makeup to account for like the super bold eye look that I'm wearing. So yeah, I would say this palette pretty much has everything I need, and even though the progress is super slow and at this point I'm doubting if I'll even hit pan in anything this year, at least even just for the ease of using this, I'm glad that this is my focus. But that's all I have to talk about. Again, not the most exciting update by far, but you know, it is what it is. And I know that having like especially a focus face palette will come in very handy in the very near future, which I can't talk about right now. Sorry, my fingers keep cracking. But you will find out about soon. But yeah, I'm just enjoying this project. But that's all I have for you for now. Thank you so much for watching. I gotta go get my pizza out of the oven actually. Hopefully it's not burnt. I will see you in my next video. Until then, I hope you have a great day. Bye.